What's up, fellow spooks? It's your spooky boy here at 8 o'clock on a Sunday. It's the 18th day of September 2022. It's 64 degrees and cloudy. And continuing with our quest to understand the events of Critical Role last episode and how it will affect Marissa Ray, because if I don't talk about it, somebody else will misrepresent me or tell lies. So since I brought it up, I better follow it through, right? Okay, so what is a Hallowed One? Marissa Ray in Campaign 3 of Critical Role is playing a Hallowed One. It's a new thing most of us have never seen before, unless you're a diehard Critical Role fan and have all the Critical Role books. You're probably like me and had no idea what a Hallowed One was, so let's look it up. So it is very specific to Wildemount. It appears in the Wildemount guide. It's not to say you couldn't play one in a normal, non-Xandria-themed D&D game, but they're definitely Wildemount Xandria Matt Mercer specific. So what are they? They are beings who are reanimated from the horrendous curses of the Blight Shore. Their bodies are soulless, departed for the afterlife, and yet their bodies have a small fragment of themselves clinging to life. Yeah, that makes no sense. This has something to do with the Calamity, Critical Role, Xandria backstory. Don't know. Apparently something. Curse. Randomly regenerating dead bodies. Reasons. They appear undead. Magic recognizes them as undead. And their posture is like that one is already dead. Their past weighs on them like a heavy, tattered cloth or sword through the gut. A few of these beings become adventurers, questing for vengeance, longing for somewhere else, or a reason to live. Cheerful. Hollow ones are not a race. They're more of a supernatural gift. They are granted to characters who used to be alive, and thus characters reanimated as Hollow Ones keep all the stats of their own race and get some new traits as well. So if you're a human in a Hollow One, you still get all the stuff for being a human. If you're a dwarf in a Hollow One, you get all the stuff for being a dwarf, plus being a Hollow One. So it's not really a race. It's, I don't know what they were called. It's like an add-on. So you could be... So could I like play a character who gets like 5th level, dies, and then comes back as a Hollowed One, but who's still 5th level and has all the 5th level stuff plus the Hollow One stuff? Or would I restart as 1st level if I died and came back as a Hollow One? I think it should just be on the list of things that reincarnated. So apparently Marissa Ray's character had a life, died, got back to life, but the soul departed. Which, of course, is leaves the whole question, well, if it's not the soul motivating the body, what is? Magic, I guess? Aliens? It sort of doesn't make sense, because there's got to be some kind of energy motivating the body and giving it free will. Otherwise, you're just a zombie. And if they are undead, are they affected by undead stuff? Like protection from evil? Scroll of protection from undead. If I cast Turn Undead and Marissa Ray's characters within the radius, does she turn and start walking away from me? We know they show up on like Detect Undead and Detect Evil. So what are the benefits for being a Hollowed One? Well, ageless. Kind of makes sense. You won't die from old age. Doesn't mean you... Are you still rotting as a Hollow One? I mean, you're dead. The process of death has, started, or flies going to start following you around? Is your character going to start smelling like a rotting corpse? Is stuff going to stop slurping off like it does in our normal corpse? I mean, you're basically a zombie with free will. So, just because you don't age, it doesn't mean that the laws of nature don't apply to you. So, oh man, that was my favorite hand. Oh, there goes my eye. I mean, they have something called Cling to Life, which gives them a 25% chance to regain 1 hit point when they make a death saving throw. So when you die normally in D&D, you get 3 death saving throws. 1 through 10, you fail. 11 through 20, you succeed. If you succeed 3 times, you automatically stabilize at 0. If you succeed and roll a natural 20, you automatically stabilize and get like a hit point or something like that. If you fail 3 times, you're dead. If you roll a fumble when you're rolling, that counts as 2 of the 3 because you have to roll 3. It's a weird system. I mean, can you just keep rolling? Has always been a question of mine. I mean, what if I go fail, success? Fail. And I mean, I guess I still have 3 fails. So yeah, I guess you can't go forever. Because as soon as you hit 3 fails or 3 successes, it clicks. But now, whenever you roll that death saves with this one, there's a 25% chance to get that extra hit point. So normally you would have to roll 3 successes to jump back up. This one says, well, there's a 25% chance on your first success that you automatically stabilize with 1 hit point. So I guess that means 1 through 10 you fail, 11 through 16 you succeed, 16 through 20 you succeed and get that 1 hit point automatically stabilize. You show up as undead, you detect as undead. Spells that only affect that don't. This doesn't mean that you take the effects of being undead. Spells that only affect undead don't work on you. So clerics can't turn you if you're undead. Okay, that doesn't make sense, but whatever. You have an ability called Unsettling Presence. As an action, you can force a creature to have disadvantage on saving throws for a minute. A minute? It's a frightened effect, so it only works on living creatures, but giving a target disadvantage on saving throws is actually really good. Jesus Christ, no. An entire minute they get disadvantage on all saving throws? There's not another special ability from any other race that's even close to that. I mean, the Dragonborn can only breathe its breath weapon twice per short rest. Drow Elves' darkness ability doesn't last an entire minute. I mean, Jesus Christ, a minute? That's just a disadvantage on any saving throw? In a D&D combat, that's just broken. It says specifically here, you shouldn't play them unless you're in Matt Mercer's Blightshore / Xandria Aider. And that you should play them as sort of mopey goths. And they make great spellcasters because of the ability to make people fail disadvantage on every saving throw. That's just, wow. Hold person disadvantage, fireball disadvantage. Yeah, wow, that's way broken compared to every other, I think, ability that you get. I mean, that's, coming out the gate, first level. You can make anybody you run into have disadvantage on things, if we're using the new rules, twice per short rest. Wow. That's just, wow. Okay. All right. There's nothing in here that says how dying affects these things and how resurrection type spells affects these things or doesn't affect these things. I'm sure there's got to be an FAQ on it, right? Can a Hallow One be resurrected? And it says, at the DM's discretion. So basically, it's going to be a Mercer call, it sounds like. So what's probably going to happen is, A, if they find a way to bring it back, it's going to come back with the original. Remember, this was a person who died, came back, is sort of a different person because the soul is gone, may or may not remember the previous life. I think that's a role-playing question, whether they remember their previous life or not. So if this person's dead and, the effects of death don't just start rapidly affecting them, which is another thing to think about. God, there's just so much involved in this race, Mercer. What the fuck were you thinking? Free will zombies. I mean, the second it dies, wouldn't the effects of death just catch up? The only thing that's been preventing this thing from falling apart is sheer willpower. I mean, how has being dead affected it? Has it been, slopping off body parts? And if the second it dies, the death catches up, and whatever. So they're dragging around this corpse that is slowly turning into, goop, as what happens with dead bodies start to deteriorate. So they have to preserve the corpse. Then, since it doesn't have a soul, when you cast Resurrect on it, is it the previous soul that was the character before they died, or is it a brand new soul? It's just whatever soul happens to be hanging around that sees a chance to inhabit a body. And if you resurrect it, is it still a Hallowed One, or is she now just human or elf or whatever she was before she died? Because you filled it with a soul, or will it work at all? I mean, you have to get a soul into the body, and you have to make sure the soul is the soul you want to be in the body, because it specifically says soulless. But resurrect and reincarnate only affects something with a soul. So first, you got to get a soul. It could be, I assume there will probably be a sub-adventure where they adventure in the land of the dead to bring her soul back, kind of like they did when Grog was dead. Or, maybe they'll just fuck it and she'll come in next week with a new character. Or she's taking a break because she's got other things to do. I mean, she does have a job outside of Critical Role. So I'm sure they've got it covered. I'm sure Mercer and her have talked about it. I'm sure when she decided to play the character, there was a lot of Q&A. Because I know I would have the Q&A going into playing that character. What happens to me? Does turn undead affect on me? Am I slowly disintegrating and turning into goop because I'm basically an animated walking corpse that just happens to have the semblance of free will? What happens to me if I, things that are blah, 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 blah? Can I breathe underwater? I mean, I'm dead. What happens to me in the rain? Do my body parts start slipping off? Do I burn faster because I'm dead? Do the laws of, thermodynamics affect me? God, so many questions. Oh, Jesus, I'd be racking my brains for years with this stupid race. But I guess it's for all those people who wanted to be mopey goth characters but didn't want to break the game by being like shades or vampire spawns or anyway. So here's your chance to be a mopey goth free-willed zombie in D&D. And from reading through all this, we have no further clue as to what's going to happen until next Thursday. So if you're a Critical Role fan, just, same Critical Role time, same Critical Role channel. I've done nothing to answer any of the questions. If anything, I've opened the door for even more questions. I'm going to assume that Mercer has thought the same questions I'm having through, but who knows? Not everybody thinks as twisted as I do. And likes to take things apart as much as I do. So anyways, there you go. If you're ever wondering what a Hallowed One was and what's going to happen, now you know that thus I have ended my trifecta of looking at death, Critical Role, the events of the last 2 weeks, Marissa's character dying, and how death affects the game. Tune in tomorrow when we get to back to talking about normal D&D stuff. Until somebody posts a video farming my content and trying to take what I said out of context. I'm the OG GM. If you appreciate this, consider subscribing, supporting me, buying my merch, liking this, sharing this, and have a generally spooky day just in time for Halloween. Hallowed Ones. Dun 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 dun.